Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and you can see it is, we got a beautiful view behind us, but unfortunately it looks a little bit stormy for the monetary system and the markets as per usual, but you know, they'll keep trying to prop it up, make it look real nice, and we know how that all results. But anyway, we're going to talk about how there's more solutions than problems, but first, let's talk about negative yields. So, John, as this Wall Street Journal article says, negative yields mount along with Europe's problems. And as the article goes into, investors around the globe are effectively paying governments to hold more than $11 trillion of their bonds, a fresh sign of ebbing economic confidence in Europe and Japan. Negative yielding government bonds outstanding through mid-January have risen 21% since October, reversing a steady decline that took place over the course of 2017 and much of the last year, according to data from Bank of America Merrill Lynch. While the stock of negative yielding debt still remains below its 2016 high, the proliferation of these bonds, which guarantee that a purchaser at issuance will receive less in repayment and periodic interest than they paid, underscores the uncertainty over the growth prospects in much of the developed world. Europe is an absolute quagmire, said Matt Freund, co-chief investment officer at Calamos Investments. There are significant headwinds that we've been talking about for a long time. Now, they're showing up in the numbers. Negative yields have become increasingly common as growth in the region continues to slow. The European Central Bank ended its bond purchase program in December, potentially adding to economic slowdown concerns, and Germany, France, Italy disagree over added fiscal stimulus. Investors are buying 5-year German debt, sending yields down to about negative 0.4% from 0.03% in April, while in many cases avoiding similar maturity Italian securities, which yield about 1.8% versus roughly 0.6% during the same period. So anyway, John, there's a lot of talk about negative yields, negative interest rates, all this kind of stuff. What is the plan? What's the story? What do you think?
Well, the reason why you have negative interest rates in the first place, Josh, is because the economy has failed. When you have to go into negative interest rates, which is basically what they were saying in the article, you make an investment, let's say $100,000 in investment, you have a negative yield of 0.40, you're going to get less money back, and you're going to get less money for that investment back in interest. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. Like, who the hell wants to invest in something that actually is going to lose value, Josh? It just baffles me that anybody would consider investing in anything like that.
I know the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve and the crazy Keynesian economists out there that are using this in order to try to prop up their side of the economy. And as they were saying too, asset purchases, they've been literally printing trillions upon trillions of dollars, buying up all these assets that are failing around the world because they've been printing too much money. You have the debt, the whole peak debt system. It's at its peak. There's no more people in debt to pay off the ever-increasing interest that doesn't exist. So that's a huge problem, Josh. It's of course something that will topple the economy eventually. And now when they're talking about maybe lowering interest rate, and that we're heading a recession at a low point, at like 2.25% in the United States. A lot of other nations are negative and just close to negative. Like, this is insane. Well, it actually makes sense to me though, Josh, because if you read the book The Curse of Cash by Kenneth Rogoff, he is mentioning this policy of going cashless and then putting in interest rates as, there's been talks about, like in his book, he was talking about -4%, -5% in interest rate, Josh. That's what he was doing.
Well, absolutely. John, let's go for a walk here. We've seen enough of the background here, and it's not looking great on the camera. But let's talk a little bit about this whole cashless society thing, because I think this plays into, obviously, like you mentioned, the problem of, well, debt servitude, and how we see places like Sweden, for example, where we have huge problems where they went negative, and you have about 1% of cash in circulation. The rest is all just, digital. And look, there's a difference between, decentralized cryptocurrency technology that's properly decentralized, fundamentally valuable, all that kind of stuff. We've gone into it before. But then there's the idea that if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's a bank's. And if your money is always going through the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws, it's never your money, it's always the banks, and you are essentially enslaved to the government and the banking system, putting you exactly where they want you, in debt, in servitude, easy to control. And this is one of the major issues that we're seeing in China, Sweden, and Canada, the United States. We're seeing everywhere. You've done a presentation recently on it. I mean, this relates a lot. So do you think that there's like this slow incremental frog boil effect, this kind of attempt to completely enslave us under this system, almost on purpose, just raising interest rates to avoid going negative, or maybe they're looking to go negative? What do you think?
I think they're going to go negative, to be honest with you. I think that's where they're heading. When you look at all the policy talk from people, especially from the G30 group, which is where the ideas came out of in the first place, which is a group of the top central banks heads, and then you have the vice chair or the chairs of all the major banks, and you have the head economist. That's where these ideas came out of. And of course, when you have people like Paul Volcker, you have people like Alan Greenspan, Janet Yellen, you got Kenneth Rogoff, you have all the heads of the banks there. You wouldn't expect anything else out of those people, Josh. Because these people, what they're trying to do, like from their point of view, is to try to corral people into the cashless society to gather taxation from people, because that's a number one thing for governments. They need more taxes. They're running bankrupt because they're printing too much money, and they can't keep up with the money printing and the cost that they're generating, like the loss of cost. So it's just a constant trying to catch up to where they were before, but they're not, because they're terrible at managing the economy. And you shouldn't manage an economy, because it should be a free market doing that. But what they're trying to do is corral people into these bank accounts that are cashless, where they could just at any time, shut you down, take your taxes that you owe, and you wouldn't have any chance to get away from that. And on top of that, have these negative interest rates. So they're trying to force the economy, to try to force people to spend more money into the economy, so they could actually get the economy to go again, try to jumpstart, instead of just like getting this garbage currency out of the way that they're created, and actually let the free market take hold, and let's innovate a little bit more. Like, it's been very stagnant. Like, even though we've really have innovated, we created a lot of things, we could have been so much further, Josh.
John, what are you saying? Freedom is good and slavery is bad or something? That's extremism and terrorism. Anyway, so this is a major problem that's slowly encroaching on us, and we have to break free from that. And there's a lot of ways to break free from that, and we have to realize that when we look at places like China, where they've pushed that world reserve system, they want to be the new world reserve currency up against the U.S. It's like, oh, what? We lose the United States, but we gain China? I mean, oh, well, they're swapping out of the U.S. dollar, so that's the end of it? No. I mean, the Federal Reserve ends, and you got China, and you got these other countries competing to be the world reserve currency, all while scanning people's faces, facial recognition technocracy everywhere. They get, text to their cell phone, and their faces shamed on a big billboard if they jaywalk, and if they don't, if they criticize a government, they get a bad social credit score. It is so Orwellian, it's so crazy. But again, like I said at the beginning of this video, there are more solutions than problems. And again, we can look at things like gold and silver, for example. Gold and silver throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia, has been great wealth insurance, not investment advice. This is our opinion, of course, and it's not meant as an investment anyway. It's wealth insurance, protecting your purchasing power against the out of control, crazy inflation, deflation. It doesn't matter. This printing and these legal tender laws, this debt servitude that they push us into. So I think that's a really important point to make. And of course, just personal responsibility, individual responsibility.
Personal responsibility, Josh? Like, what are you talking about?
It's crazy, right? So I think that's the most important part, is just, be responsible for yourself, defend yourself, stand up for yourself, protect your purchasing power, food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things to the toughest guys on the block. And of course, there are really great, decentralized, properly, fundamentally valuable cryptocurrencies, and not just cryptocurrencies, but blockchain technology. You can use it for evil, you can use it for good. Let's use it for good and stop laying down because some others use it for evil. So John, wrapping it up, what's your bottom line to people around the world as we face these issues and they're slowly encroaching on this major, real possibility of not only just complete collapse, which needs to happen sooner than later, by the way, or else it'll even be worse, but also these negative rates. What's your advice or opinion, I should say, legal terms, for people watching this?
Get off the grid. Get off the grid. That's the number one thing. We can't be within this, banking system that they created for us because, as I said, as I described just in this conversation, Josh, they want to have that full control over you, where it's in a cashless government banking controlled system where they have the full control over every single dime that you've earned. That's what they want. So you need to get off the grid. And of course, you said, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, not be dependent on the government, have your own food, just be more self-reliant as a human being. If everybody moved in that direction and became more self-reliant, our world would be such a more different place. There would be no need for that central control government mechanism that we built over time, and that is just constant. It's always a cycle, Josh. We start with that little government, then we just slowly get lazier and lazier and let the government take over more and more of our life, and then we end up in total enslavement, either under Hitler or Stalin or whoever it is on the side of the the collectivist left. Everything is left. It doesn't matter if you're a Nazi or if you're a fascist or a communist. Both of them are on the same exact side of the spectrum, which is government control and enslavement. So we need to get out of that. We need to start to understand and give each other the ideas that we were talking about here in Anarchapulco, Josh, and you were up on stage. We were all talking and having so many great conversations about this, to free ourselves from this system and just be a free human being. It's very simple rule.
We need to quit complaining and start living free. And I think the biggest issue is that we have to, an apathetic populace is a dependent populace, is an enslaved populace. A responsible populace is an independent populace, a free populace. We must work towards freedom as an individual and not look for others to help us out with that. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We will be back at you with much more here at World Alternative Media. We got Danny Sessim's bus in the back that it's way too bright. Let me lower this. Oh, here we go. Oh, can you see that? Can you see that now? There we go. Now we're dark. Anyway, I've been fidgeting around with my camera lately. So I really appreciate you all joining us, everyone. And until next time, John is heading to freezing cold Canada. I'm heading to freezing cold Las Vegas. Weirdly, really cold there right now. It's snowing.
Global warming, Josh.
I know. Anyway, so thanks for joining us again, John. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.